Good evening, Winthrop votes.
My phone ran overtime.
Did it?
It did, yeah.
Yeah. See, I knew I heard something in the background.
I have to check. I always have to check and make sure that stuff is going live.
That we've actually had touchdown, if you will.
We've had touchdown. We have ignition. Let me see.
Oh yeah, that's it. Ignition.
Yeah.
All
right.
So while people are trickling in,
yeah.
I did want to ask you what you did over the weekend, and how was it?
See. I didn't really do much. This was kind of a went to dinner, found a new restaurant that we actually like in Boca. I didn't even know the place existed. It's been there for a while, so we kind of tested the waters on that one, and it was a grand slam. You know why it was a grand slam? Because they have bread pudding on the menu. So me and the good doctor are bread pudding maniacs. We're fanatics. If we see bread pudding on a menu, we will go to the restaurant.
Just for the bread pudding.
Just to see how the bread pudding is in the end. There's always something on a menu that you can eat, right? There's always something.
Young retired guy. You're a young retired guy. You have too much time on your hands, and that's it.
So we found that. That's Stacy, my friend Stacy Suwak. She is also a bread pudding fanatic. So when I messaged her and I said, at a restaurant, bread pudding on the menu. And she says, I need a picture.
Did you send her one?
Of course I did. Us bread pudding people got to stick together.
I see.
It's not a common dessert.
No, it's not a common
at
dessert.
Restaurants. Yeah.
No, it's not.
I mean, what's the other stuff? Creme brulee is just crusty custard.
Yep.
What's the other one?
Chocolate lava cake, like with the hot chocolate in the middle that melts over the ice cream.
I actually make that in a slow cooker.
That.
I can make that in a slow cooker. It's killer. I'll give you the recipe. It's easy, but it tastes like $1 million. Tastes like you took hours to do it.
So I love that.
It's like 2 ingredients.
I need less of that in my life, not more.
No, the stuff that's it's soft. It's like a cake, but it's
mousse?
like no. It's like a pudding too. Like it's soft. It's not tres leche. It's some other thing. It's an Italian thing, I think.
Indian pudding is tough to. Oh, are you talking about? They make them with the Vienna fingers in them.
No, not eclairs. Not anything.
No.
This is like it always comes. It's like a cake. I forget the name of it. Tiramisu. That's
tiramisu.
Yeah.
That's it.
Tiramisu is just pudding cake.
Yeah, I'm actually not a fan because the bread gets soggy. I don't like it.
You don't like soggy bread?
Hey, when I go in the bakery, I love the icicles. You ever had an icicle?
Oh, it might be something different down here, but
it's a chocolate cake with coconut in the middle and coconut flakes on the outside.
Ooh,
so it tastes
like
cool
coconut
when you eat it.
Yeah.
If I pull it off the paper and it's moist under there, I give them back.
What is it with you Italians and textures of bread? I got a friend of mine.
If you didn't make it fresh and you're serving me something that's been sitting there since yesterday and you're charging me $8 for the slice, you're going to give me one that's dry on the bottom.
My buddy. In a sub shop, he took his name, Dominic Marty from South Philly. He took a sub and just threw it down on the table and was just absolutely just out of his mind that this bread is soggy. The bread is soggy. This roll is soggy. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But it's just bread. Eat it. Texture. You know what the best dessert is with that has coconut.
Coconut patty?
Hostess snowballs. The best.
Oh yeah. The pink
best.
ones? You like the
pink
pink ones?
The best. The best. You get
Wow.
marshmallow.
Mass-
You get cupcake in there because Hostess cupcake is the greatest.
It's mass produced bakery. It's not the best.
It's the best. You can't beat it.
Oh my God.
It's been around for decades and decades. The snowball is eternal. You got marshmallow.
No matter
coconut.
when you open it, it'll be fresh.
That's right. It's got marshmallow, coconut, and actually like Hostess cupcake, which is the top. That's the pinnacle of desserts. If they had Hostess cupcakes on a dessert menu at a restaurant, oh, I'm eating it. I'm getting it. I don't care if I pay $4 and a pack is only $1.50. Hostess cupcakes to me are the greatest dessert ever created. I'm 12. Okay.
Yeah.
I also put ketchup on my hot dogs.
Well, I do that too. So, and I get yelled at for that. It's baloney. Actually, whatever.
And I put mayonnaise on ham and cheese sandwiches.
Yeah, that's
okay. Moving on.
You dunk your fries in them. All right.
So, my friend, what do we have? On deck tonight.
I first want to correct the record real quick. Now that we've got a few people on and we're getting ready to go. I'm not sure if it's a record correction as much as it's a clarification of a conversation. The conversation I had with Lydia. I just want to say the bottom line was, I mentioned last week that she took offense to the fact that I called her a lurker, or leerers or something. Lurker, it wasn't directed at anyone in particular. It was directed to the people that were looking over at us, making us feel uncomfortable. I wanted to just get that out there because. By no means.
That's what lurking is.
Well, okay, fine. Well, then I got it right. But big thing for me, I want to talk about tonight is the work. So I posted on Facebook the other day that an historic evening happened, and finally, in the last 15, 16 years, I think there's been 4 or 5 different ordinance review committees convened, and not one has been able to bring something to closure to the council for consideration. We've done that. The message will be getting delivered tomorrow night. But before we go down that road, I know you and I had been talking a little bit about, you had read something in the transcript that I actually missed. So I'm going to turn it over to you because I want to hear more about this.
Well, it was just at a glance. By the way, this is episode 49, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 49. I saw at a glance that there's going to be a proposal for a flag policy. That kind of mirrors Wakefield. Now, my first question is, why Wakefield? What they did, I'm absolutely sure the flag committee, do you know anybody that's on them, on the flag committee?
Well, I know who's on that policy. Steve Ruggerio's one of them. And Barbara Flockhart's another.
Right. So there you go. So they sought out a policy that fits their agenda. I'm sure. Why Wakefield? Like, as random as it gets. You know what I mean?
Right, because they had to. Right, they had to search, and Wakefield came up. They certainly.
Sure,
let's start in the W's.
Yeah. And I'm sure that they sought out something that they could say, "Hey, look what this town does." And that's what we should do. Now, the point of this is, why do we have to mirror any other community? Why is it that it seems to be the liberals just want to mirror every community around them? Well, Revere's doing it. East Boston's doing it. Somerville is doing it. But Winthrop is Winthrop. Winthrop isn't Revere. And that's what makes Winthrop unique. But they want to bring it in to the Borg, as I call it, the hive. So they seek out like-minded towns or like-minded policy, and then they'll present that because it fits them. But does it fit anybody else? That's the question.
And if I could just jump in there, Scott, real quick, because I was just writing down a note to bring this up. And does it fit anybody else, even within their own movement? Because I don't think there's more than 10 people who are actually gay that are that are so hell bent on having a flag fly, they continue to push this issue.
You can even say 20.
We
You
know
can even
two
say
people
20.
that don't. We know two people that don't. Father Walter, right, and Brianna Malloy. They both have said in no way, shape, or form is this flag represent them. They've said that in certain, they've said that in their own words. We've heard them. So why are they doing this? Why? This isn't about the flag at all. It's clearly not, because we also demonstrated, while my party may have been a flop to some.
Again, it's the first time, so it's
I don't even care.
To some.
The point was proven that you can fly whatever flag you want without impediment. If it were me, the most evil, awful person you think I am, I flew. There were pride flags up there. Maybe not the ones you liked, but if the exact one you wanted showed up, we would have allowed it to fly. So you don't need to do this.
I think fair warning to the town council and the town manager, there will be a lawsuit.
My flag goes up in July. The Gadsden flag will fly. That request will be made.
I'm sure there will be a lawsuit
and then there will be a lawsuit
against the town council, against the town manager. Everybody will get sued and sorted out in court. And good luck, because the right policy is just keep what's there. That's the only right policy. American flag, POW, and a state flag.
And to dovetail off your point, Scott, this is a very liberal town manager, Austin Faison, very progressive man, backed that policy, as did our former acting town manager, Chief Delahanty. Two guys that are probably pretty opposite in their worldview. And they back the same plan. This should be, to the town council, if you're watching, or any of you are watching, this should be tutti frutti, and you shouldn't even be looking at it. Or the policy you should be making is you should just be voting on the policy that's in place as it stands and codifying it and ending it. Because now you're opening yourselves up, and it's unbelievable. This is so obviously just, I want to win and I don't want to, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And they better think this through. Now, they can be like, well, and some of these town councilors might be like, well, I don't care. I'm not running for re-election. So I'll just get this run. If you're part of that, when it happens, you will most likely be named in a lawsuit. And this will gain a lot of attention. If Winthrop doesn't want bad attention, then stay away from this. They will get bad press. They'll get good press. They're going to get more press than they care to get.
That's a good point.
If they don't see this, if they're that blind, then they deserve everything that's coming. They deserve everything that's coming their way. Because the minute they deny someone a flag, I don't care what their policy is. As soon as they deny somebody, it's going to court. They can bank on that.
That's a very good point, Scott, because what they're assuming, because they've seen these communities have these policies, what they're assuming is that it's constitutional. But we don't know. It hasn't been tested. The Supreme Court's not going to come out of nowhere. Someone has to file a complaint. So we don't have any idea. Wakefield, Revere. Revere was a great example. Revere, they have pride flags, this and that. Well, how do you know Steve Morabito didn't apply for that? Maybe the city itself didn't do it. Maybe it was done by by some member of the community. So we really need more facts than this. This really shouldn't be being debated, but if they're going to try this, you're right. They should think about it.
Well, it's going to get presented, in August. It's going to get presented in August to the town council. And I mean, this isn't going to be something that they're just going to push through with, if they do. Right. And I'm assuming they're already lobbying for the votes. Now, whoever's voting on this, best be prepared to start spending some money, because going to court isn't free. No. Going to court isn't free. And let's just say, there's more than a few pro bono lawyers that will take up a flag case because it will draw so much attention.
Sure will.
And that is a fact. And that's all I can say about that. So there's more than a couple pro bono lawyers that will take up a flag issue with the town government, and it will gain a lot of unwanted attention. So just Winthrop Town Council, just think of those things. Think it through. The best policy is just keep what's there and move on. Why are they so against? And I know we've beat this up a couple times. Why are they so against just flying it at the
They don't even have to be. They can fly it on town hall if they pull a permit. Do it for the day. They can do it themselves.
Yeah.
There's no. They can pull a 30-day permit if they want, but they got to put it up and take it down themselves. I mean, they can do what it's just to make a point. And people who are watching, who support us, tell your counselors, be heard. Precinct, let's see, precinct 2, you need to reach out to your counselor because I'm sure he'll vote in favor of the Wakefield policy. We could go through the list. You know who they are.
I have a funny feeling that those counselors could care less about what their constituents say. I just have a funny, when it comes to that,
you're probably right.
They are going to do ultimately what they want to do. I heard my people. And if there's no one there to really say who spoke to them or who wrote them, then they can turn around and say, I've had plenty of backing.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no accountability if people reach out and say, I don't want it. They can turn around and say, oh, well, my people said that I should do it.
Until election day.
Yeah, it's typical politician move,
Yep.
But yeah, until election day. And hey, listen, if you're not running for re-election, then you'll still be named.
Sure. Yeah, well, they have to have long memories, I guess, too, to pull that off.
Yeah. So that's the latest on the flag policy. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about? I want to talk about development, but we could do that later on.
Yeah. So let's get going on the ordinance review conversation, because it could take we could get a good chunk of time out of this, because there's some good things to consider here. And so first, again, I mentioned before the show started that this is the first time an ordinance review committee is going to be bringing basically what we call a final product to the council for them to take up for consideration. They don't have to pass it. They can just put it away. They can make changes to it. They can pull some of the proposals out of it. They can pull them all out and make this. They can do just about anything with it. So the first reason I want to do this is because I really want people to understand the importance of this and call all of the counselors. Again, this probably won't matter, but it's worth it, and encourage them to pass this through as it's written and let the people decide. The reason I say that is, so Jim Lettieri won an election by a lot. Unprecedented historical election. We've talked about this a number of times. He has a mandate here in some ways. I hate to use that term because I am so anti that kind of power. But by the rules of the charter and our town government, he gets to pick the ordinance review committee, of which I was part of, in case anyone doesn't know. And so I think the council needs to respect that, because the community picked him and his ideas and his ideology, if you will, if you want to go that far. And so while I think everyone's entitled to weigh in, and maybe there are some minor tweakings, obviously I would say pass it through as is. That's what I would like. Selfishly, there are many of us who are that selfish. We understand there's probably going to be some changes, but I don't think it's appropriate unless it's legal language, maybe something they get an opinion from K&P, anything like that. But the what we put here is very reasonable. The board that was selected, even though the board that was selected by Jim was very diverse, people from all walks of life, lawyer, architect, me, a council member. I mean, we everybody that was on the committees in the packet, we've kind of talked about that ad nauseum. So I wanted to get that out because it's really, really important that we encourage our council to put this to the people in as close to this form as possible. Now we started, there were 11 or 12. Let me see. I'm not going to go through all these tonight because some of them are pretty lame and mundane and boring. There were 13 total proposals. The first proposal was proposal to change the composition of the council, right? So proposal 1A, we called it. And proposal 1A had two options, which were proposal 1A small b, small a, and proposal 1A small b. We voted 7-2, so 7-2 to actually take up the proposal, and then we voted 0-9 for proposal 1A small a, which was to reduce to change the composition from 6 precinct councilors and a town council president, and to eliminate the 2 at large. So we were going to get rid of the 2 at large councilors. So I want to stop there. The thought process there was we wanted to shrink the council, but the concern was the reason that the concern was how do you shrink the council? You can't really get rid of precinct councilors because we don't set the precincts. The state helps us with that. Like there's a lot to think about there. And so what was brought up was B, which was 1A small b. And that was to just make it all at-large councilors and a council president. And that passed 6-3. The reason we struggled with this at first, the reason there was 2 choices was simply because the reason there was 2 choices was simply because the city of Lowell had a lawsuit related to having all at large because some people felt like they weren't being represented. And that can happen in an at-large scenario. And so that's why I thought it'd be important to kind of talk about this and give it some context. It can happen in an at-large scenario where everybody, as an example, all 6 councilors at large could live in precinct 2, what is currently constructed as precinct 2. And that would leave all the other precincts unrepresented.
Let me see. Why is that? Kurt, call again.
Yeah. Or we could just send him a link too, if you think it's easier. Because he's on the ORC too. And he's going to use
hey, Kurt, if you want to come on, you use the same link that you used before.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. So anyway, hold on.
Why isn't this working? Hold on.
Going live. Yeah, let's.
It's not working. I knew it wasn't gonna.
Hold on. We're not having technical difficulties. Nope.
No. It's someone from KOFB.
Can you hear me still? Oh, now you're back.
No, I can't hear you. Hold on. I'm going to log out. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Carry on.
Carry on. Am I live? Kurt. Call in. Don't call in. Click the link. He'll let you in when he gets back in. Oh, there he is.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So where was I now? See, you threw me all off.
The lawsuit from the town that said that they're not getting enough representation.
Oh yeah, Lowell. Yeah, not enough representation. That can happen. You can still log in, Kurt, on your phone. It'll work. That can happen, but in a small town like Winthrop, it's not likely, right? Because people from every precinct pretty much cross over and know each other. And people that live in precinct 1 sometimes might feel more comfortable talking to someone in precinct 5. I mean, the problems in our town, no matter where you live, for the most part, are the same. But the Point's the only one that's really different.
Hold on, you're on Winthrop Live.
Hey, it's Kurt.
What's up?
Now
Kurt?
we figured it out.
Finally got through.
What's Bingster? That's what comes.
Oh, that's my it's my daughter's old phone. because I have you on my Samsung Fold because I watched the
Okay.
big video.
I see Bing
So-
screen like, okay.
Yeah.
So what's up?
So it's my second phone. No, I'm just listening to what Todd's saying. It is interesting, some of the bullet points he's going to be bringing up, and I just wanted to chime in on some of them too because I was on the committee.
All right.
Kurt, did you catch the breakdown of 1A, proposal 1A? Anything you want to add?
No, I know it was hard for us to get to some of the points because we were, like Todd said, very diverse, and but there was support, pretty much a majority kind of rule on that one,
Yeah.
where we
Do we
all
know-
came to the same conclusion,
Yeah, I mean,
except for two.
right. Well, this one was a 6-3 on the making it from 6, bringing it down to 6 at large. So, yeah, and I think it's important because there was a conversation on YouTube, I guess, with some conversations with the counselors, and they took these non-official votes, just kind of getting the temperature, I guess you'd say, of this stuff, of what we're putting out. But they really didn't frame it. They kind of just read the data. So I thought it was important to make sure we frame this correctly so they understood why we think it's important, what the role of the whole ORC is, right? Like our primary job was to look at the current rules and ordinances and to look at the charter and make suggestions for the council to consider. And so that's what we did. So moving on to 1B, we took up the should the term of the council president be changed from a 2-year term to a 4-year term. Now this one had a fair amount of back and forth. I mean, we talked about this one a lot. Few people were concerned about the president having that much power. But in the end, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but when we had 2 public hearings, the second one was better attended. The overall feedback I recall from that public hearing and my own solicited feedback, admittedly probably from fairly biased sources, but all of it seemed to point to a favor of the 4 years for the president because he or she really doesn't have time to get their agenda through in 2 years. It's just not enough time for someone who really wants to be committed. Because if you're going to run for president, you want to be committed. You're sitting on 2 boards, endless committee meetings you go to. So
we lost him.
He got cut off, and now he can't chime in. See. Anyway, so yeah, well, there's that.
And your camera just went blurry.
Yeah, that's all right. I just got to do that.
All of a sudden,
Reset.
there you go.
See? Yeah, so the breakdown on that vote, like I said, was 7-2. And we went back and forth a lot. And I think it's important to understand why, right?
Right.
You have a lot of power. The charter gives the president a lot of power. Hopefully that's Kurt.
Yeah, but it didn't come through again. Hold on. I'm not going to fight with this. I'm just going to do it like this.
Press on the wrong button.
So really?
How to do it this way.
This is live stream, folks.
That's it. That's what happens.
Where did he go?
It's not coming through. Kurt's going to have to pass him. Yeah, the phone's not
Are
coming
you there?
through for some reason.
Oh, there he is. I hear
There
him.
you are. All right.
Okay, I hear you guys.
All right, good.
Yeah, so where did you lose us and did I get anything wrong?
I kind of lost you because I was trying to turn up the volume and actually hung up.
Oh.
It's an iPhone thing. I'm a Samsung person, so.
So I was talking about changing the term to 4 years for the president. And the basic point I wanted to check myself on was, I feel like all the feedback we got at that second meeting was in favor of 4 years for the president, or do I misremember that meeting?
We did go back and forth because there was the thought of, you vote a person back in to keep them going. I know there was conversation of that. The feedback I got outside of our meeting was the majority were for a 4-year.
Yeah. Okay.
For
So
a
that's-
4-year term. Right. Which
Yeah,
only
for
makes
4 years.
sense. Should be 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've had the 2-year term thing. We've seen you actually have seen what it does. We haven't really had, I mean, with the exception of Riley and I think Peter Gill, there haven't been consecutive
Town council
town
presidents.
council presidents. And so that speaks a lot to um, the setup of the system and who we're electing. And I think if we're making it 4 years and there's still people raising their hands, because some of those people, I spoke to them pre-election, and some of those people were, yeah, I think, I want to give it 2 years and see. They weren't necessarily sold on being the president per se for the right reasons, if you know what I mean. So I think this gives us this helps us with the candidate pool, and if you get a good one, you can have them stick around a while without having to run for election.
It's continuity also.
Sure.
Continuity on the council when there's new councilors coming on. If you have old councilors and then you have a new councilors with a new president, well, that's kind of there's a clash there, I think.
Right.
So
then the next proposal 1C, which was, should the terms of the councilors, excluding town council president, be changed from 4 to 2 years? So we're reducing to 2 years.
Yes.
A lot of discussion about you're going to get a lot of people with no experience. They're always going to be running. What are they going to run on their second term?
Everything they did on their first term, if they did anything.
Well, they're still learning. It was the argument. And in fairness, Scott, there's going to be a lot of newbies, but my pushback was, listen, just because it's a 2-year term doesn't mean the people who were going to run for 4 years still wouldn't run. Not everybody's going to be a rookie that runs on those 2-year terms.
Right.
The other pushback, though, and Kurt, you may want to weigh in on this one. The other pushback is the complete turnover. We could theoretically completely turn over a council every 2 years. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But
the odds of that happening are slim
so
to
slim.
none. Yeah.
Are you there, Kurt? Did we lose you?
No, that sounded pretty accurate. There was some concern for that.
Right.
I mean, there's always what ifs. If there was no such thing as what ifs, would there be any what ifs? Would there be any questions about it? I mean, but the chances of that happening are slim to none. A lot of these people run unopposed also.
Well, and let me say that it's not an invalid argument to say we're worried about experience, right? I mean, I've spoken to several of the newbies, and some of them are more overwhelmed than others with trying to learn, but they're not realizing that some of those newbies are actually getting things done, albeit small steps. They're learning the budget, they're making budget, they're working on the budget, helping make the proposals. That's the biggest part of it. So I do respect that concern, but I would just counter with a couple things. One, the overwhelming majority of the ORC voted to push that through. Two, that was definitely well, I won't say that. Never mind. I'm going to keep that to myself.
Yeah.
Save that for later.
Some things are better said.
Yeah.
Left unsaid.
So I don't know.
So 4-year term for the president, 2-year terms for the councilors, all the councilors at large, and understanding that if they're at large, that means they have to campaign everywhere. They don't just have to stay in their little neighborhood. You know?
Well,
okay.
I do want to be fair there. Some precincts have better turnout than others. A lot, like the beach area, I forget how it breaks down, but part of it falls into 2 precincts, I believe, 3 and 4, I think. Either way, the beach is not really a well-represented area because it's a lot of transient renters who don't get involved.
Right, and you can't change that. You can't change that, but doesn't mean that you can't have 6 councilors at large roaming the streets up the beach trying to talk to people, because that's what you got to do, right? You got to get people involved. I don't know.
Anybody who doesn't believe a beautiful beach impacts the whole town, every precinct, is an imbecile. And if you run for council and don't understand that every precinct of your community in a 1.4 square mile town matters to you, then you don't belong in an at-large counselor seat. That's it.
Yeah.
So the point that I like to bring up with this too is that, you know, our committee, we're supposed to take the feedback, and the hard part is not going full-fledged with your own beliefs and your own thoughts, because I mean that's what you want to do. And the hard part is bringing in all this other feedback, because I called multiple people. I spoke to people, you know, down the center, and I got very mixed responses on all this first one and a couple others on how it should be. I mean, there was so many people who were saying, let's go back to town meeting. Well, fact of the matter is town meeting is not effective. You only meet so many times a year, so that's kind of not even on the table here.
That's right.
It's what we have currently and what can we do to make it better. So Todd, I mentioned it at one of the meetings. I was torn on how I would actually lean with this one.
Right.
Now, this one I know is broken apart in multiple pieces, but the thing is, with all the feedback I got, I knew exactly the way I wanted to go. But the right thing to do, that and because we're a committee that's supposed to take that feedback and do it for the people, not for ourselves.
Yeah. Every committee should be like that.
Well, but that's why you have a diverse makeup too, right? Like, cause some things you're going to think, wow, this is hard and fast, right? You can't help it. Like, to me, bickering about the differences between 2 and 4 years experience or running for election every year, blah, blah, blah. Okay. They're all legitimate, but why not try something different? Cause it's not working this way. Jim and I were talking this morning, Jim Letier and I were talking this morning. He'll hopefully remind the council of how many seats across the entirety of this form of government have run unopposed. It's obnoxious.
Or people have been asked to do it.
Oh, yeah. That's not even in his equation, but some of these current councilors don't want to really be there. They didn't want, well, at least when I met with them, they're like, God, I wish it was only, 2, 3, whatever years. They said, this 4 years is a big commitment, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I know the town needs it, blah, 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 whatever. We're just trying something different, in my opinion. And that'd be an easy one to change back, candidly, would it not?
It would still have to go to the state and have it changed back.
Right, but it's not like a ginormous structural change. It's a language change and a vote.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think a 2-year term for a councilor, if they want to get reelected, motivates them to get more involved, get their name out there, get, whatever they've been doing, whatever their voting record is, get it out there to get reelected.
That's exactly right.
If you're done with your 2 years, then you're done. I think an at-large it will actually garner more people wanting to do it.
That's what we're hoping. It opens it up.
I think
more
it should. I think it
positions.
will. Yeah.
So we're hoping.
I think some of the part of the problem was that it would be seen as not truly representative, where we have precincts and all that. And the way I started thinking about it was, how many counselors have people from other precincts coming to talk to them?
Right.
And in my head, that is an at-large kind of counselor.
And
if you have someone not in your precinct.
It's not hard for a counselor to say, "Hey, I'm going to be down in the center having coffee Saturday morning. Just come down and talk to me," or a couple of them.
Right.
That makes it even easier.
That's right.
Put it out there. Put it in the transcript. They put everything else in there. Say, "Hey, I'm going to be down there. I don't see it as being unrepresented. Then next Saturday, I'm going to be down the point. I'll be down at the pier in that nice little park right in front of the pier. Come and talk to me." If you're an active counselor, then that shouldn't be a problem. Everybody should get represented.
Absolutely.
Just saying, it's up to them.
So then we moved on to, finally, we're on proposal 2, by the way. So proposal 2 was basically about the abandonment language, meaning if you abandon your seat for a certain period of time, you're considered no longer a member and they can refill the seat. I'm not going to bore you with the language. We basically effectively shorten the time that you can miss, the number of meetings you can miss, and the time frame. We had too many counselors over the last several councils, for whatever reasons, just not showing up at all, showing up late, not coming to subcommittee meetings. We just couldn't have it. So that's just a tightening of the ship, if you will.
Is that commonplace though, or is it an anomaly?
What do you mean?
A council
Missing meetings
going up in multiple.
So
meetings.
so I can speak to roughly the first 12 years of 11 years of the council, and no, not really.
Right.
It was rare that they did that. So,
right.
But
it's good to have in place.
Yes, it is. Proposal number 4. This can be approved by a 2/3 vote, by the way. It doesn't have to go to the state. So the council can adopt this one whenever they want. And basically, we're looking to, and this hopefully we'll talk about this after, Scott. This speaks to your development. We want to remove the ability for use variances, to disallow use variances. But I'm sorry, let me go back. I apologize. I just wanted to say that proposal number 2 was a 9-0 vote, a unanimous vote. There were a number of those, so I thought it'd be worthy of mention that we all agreed on that one. But getting back to proposal 4, we wanted to disallow the use of use variances because essentially, and Kurt made this point very astutely, use variances require a hardship. And a lot of these have been happening without hardships. Use variances make it easy for developers to come in and do what they were trying to do on Shore Drive, do what they were trying to do. Where were the places you mentioned earlier this evening next to Nick's, right? Whatever they're doing there.
That's a whole story in itself. How that thing got pulled off, I don't know. But you have one down behind Executive Apartments across from the football field. They want to propose, I don't know, 20, 25 units there. The one on Winthrop Street. That they want to put maybe a 50 unit in there, and I mean it's coming, man.
So and so this rule, if you will, doesn't stop it. It makes them go through a different process. 3 people on a appeals board can't give the go ahead. That's just so subject to so many different problems. This, with removing the use variances, now you got to change zoning. It becomes a bigger project. It
should, because Winthrop, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
As we know, Winthrop, it's already happening. It's already happening. And if Winthrop doesn't tighten the reins on this, or pull back on the reins, it's going to be raining condos. And it's just the way it's going. I mean, they found it, and now they want to build on it. And that's it. If Winthrop takes control of this and says, we're not going to make it that easy anymore to come in here and put up 40 condo units. And you know what? This should go across the board for the people that on other topics don't agree with us. The people that do agree with us, this should be like a united front of people that live in Winthrop to stop this massive development from coming in. Everything has a tipping point. Do you want to be living in Winthrop when the infrastructure just implodes? I mean, Winthrop has not even felt the effects of Suffolk Downs' 10,000 units that are going to be there. They haven't felt the effects of the 200 that they want to put at Orient Heights at the old casket company. Like, Winthrop hasn't felt these effects yet. Yeah. And yet they have people that are coming in and wanting to put up 20 condo units, 30 condo units, 15 condo units. I mean, Winthrop has to kind of reel it in, man, and wait and take a wait and see stance.
Well, most people don't find out about all these developments in Winthrop you just listed that are happening. A lot of people don't find out about them until they get a notice that it's next door to them.
The poor Cross family. The Cross family. That's horrendous. What happened to them, and that monstrosity, the 5-story monstrosity that went up next to Nick's.
Yep. No, that's
They took out a corner of their fence to put in. That's how close they got to the.
Yeah, the back
to
end
their
of that
property.
building is close.
It's right there. It's
Or is that-
literally
wait a minute.
on the property line.
That house, that development isn't on Pauline. That's addressed on the
Fremont.
side street, Fremont. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where the front door is. But, right? It's basically it's a weird configuration, evidently. But I mean, Winthrop people, like whether you agree with us or disagree with us on other topics, you got to agree on this one. And the town council needs to take this seriously, which I'm sure they will.
Well, they
Did you skip over 3?
what 3? Yeah, I wasn't reading them all. I'm only
Okay.
doing. Yeah, I skipped over 3 for sure, dude. I find that one boring.
I think it's important.
Well, bore
because
us,
it's about
Todd.
limiting some of the president's powers per se.
Should multiple member bodies, I mean, yeah, they have to. No, proposal 3 is about the multi-member bodies having to vote for a leader, a chairperson.
Yeah, they get to chair their own. They get to choose their own
Yeah,
chair, basically,
Yeah.
instead of the council president choosing.
So you're taking that away from the town
yeah,
president.
we're taking it away
town
from the
council
council.
president.
Yeah,
Basically, like this ordinance review committee. I mean, it passed 9-0. I didn't have a dog in the hunt, so I gave into it. I didn't really love it because I don't know that I'd have been. I think Mark Chapdelaine was the exact right person for our committee, and if the president of the council didn't get to pick him, we might have got someone else that wasn't the exact right person. I know I didn't want to do. I wanted the job at first. After seeing what he did and all the time he spent and how meticulous he was, no, thank you. So I'm actually glad you brought it up, Kurt. I mean, I guess it passed 9-0. I was a go along to kind of get along on that one. Again, it wasn't that important to me. So that's why I kind of skipped over it.
What's the effect? I mean, what's the effect if the town council president doesn't pick the committee chair? What is the real effect of that?
I'll give you a
I
good one.
think the benefit is then the actual committee can, go around who would want to be it first. Then they could have if 2 people wanted to be the chair or willing to do it, then they could have a vote for it amongst the committee itself and not have the president, let's hypothetically say, I want this person on here because they're only going to do what I want them to do. So, this kind of limits in the committees the president's power over the committee.
Here's the downside. If either Stephen Ruggiero or Bob Carroll were elected president, we wouldn't have a lot of the stuff we have on here that we're talking about tonight. Because the chairperson of these committees of the council controls a lot. There's things he can and can't do, obviously, but they organize the way the vote goes down and how the questions were formed. So that's a lot of control you don't realize. Right? The way we broke down question 1 into we were trying to accommodate everybody's vote. As I was listening to this conversation, when the committee was debating how to form the questions, and as I was listening to it, I was keeping my mouth out of it because I didn't want to ruin it. Because if the way we broke it down, it just made it that much harder for the ones I wanted. I'm sorry, that much easier for the ones I wanted to win. And so I just kept my mouth shut. So that's kind of I guess that's the check and balance too. I mean, I don't know. That's why I didn't really have a dog in the hunt, because it can kind of go either way.
Yeah, it goes either way.
So the 2/3 vote approval, is the use variances. Essentially, that I think we kind of beat that one up. To go to your point about Scott, you said about the council should put it through 8-1. There are going to be some people that the whole town's not going to be for it, but 8-1 sounds about right. Because think about it, some people in Winthrop are developers. and they don't want to go through that process. It, the small time guys too, right? The guys that aren't the big money guys.
I could understand if Winthrop was wide open like it was 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
When they started building mountains to build houses on top of where there would never have been a house. I think those days are done in Winthrop. So they got it. They chewed up a lot of the vacant property, the vacant land in Winthrop, and they chewed it up. They put houses on it. But now it's, again, small developer, big developer, it doesn't matter. Unless it's if it's reasonable, then it should have no trouble going through.
That was what was.
One thing I was looking at too, or thinking about during this one, is it takes a lot of pressure off the Board of Appeals.
Yeah, and I'm sure they
and it puts it back to the public.
Yep.
And our Board of Appeals, the way our Board of Appeals is kind of different than most, where they actually divide up the whole kind of committee there into groups of 3.
Right.
Which isn't common to do. And I think this will help where, down the road, right now we're lucky to have some really strong people on the Board of Appeals. And how they group each other together on each project. I think it works well now, but down the road when we don't have some of these people in place, we could have, people with hidden agendas that, might take variances and just, yes, you can have it, yes. So this puts it back more into the public and crosses over into multiple, like the planning board, the ZBD, all that, everything. It kind of
more fingers.
Makes it go through a better process and more public.
Yeah.
And maybe that monstrosity on Fremont wouldn't have made it through.
And I'm gonna add my 2 cents here because look, I think about some of my friends who live in Winthrop, who've coached my kids, who are developers in Winthrop, small guys, they make a nice living. This could hurt them, but they're also well-respected people. Get your people out to vote because this isn't over. We just wanted it to go out to the people the way we thought it should.
So let me ask you this then, Todd.
Yeah,
let me ask you this.
Yep.
If in fact on this show, the subject comes up around election time, is it a conflict of interest for you to choose a side, seeing that you're on the ordinance committee? Would it be appropriate for you to say, I don't think there should be developers in this town. I think the development should stop. Have you kind of put yourself in a corner where you can't really speak on it because you were one of the people that helped create it?
So piecemeal, I would be comfortable going through this again and supporting one or the other. But no, I think on that one, I'd stay out of it just because not necessarily a conflict as much for me as it is, hey, I want people to vote on that there's people's livelihoods at stake there.
So if you're the host of this show and I'm the producer, co-host, and I start talking about how Winthrop should be, pulling the plug on development and taking a break, and is this another problem it's going to be interesting how you're going to handle this.
Well, I've made my feelings known that I like the development. That new development I think is appropriate. The new style development I think is appropriate for down the center. I don't think it's appropriate in neighborhoods, right? I don't think it's appropriate on the beach. So while I think that it is interesting because it's one of those, it's a good question set, and I haven't really thought about it as deeply as you've taken me. But the simple fact of the matter is I get a vote. And at the end of the day,
yeah, true. Yeah.
I want there to be balance. I think, by the way, I think most of these small time developers aren't going to be that bent out of shape to have to go through, to your point, an extra approval process. Because if there's no real issues, converting a 3-family into a condo unit, or, you might not be able to get as many units as you used to, but you can still develop property and keep Winthrop. And in the end, if they want to sit down and throw coffee at me or hit me in the head with something, that's fine. We can have a conversation about it. But I have to think about the whole town. I can't just think about them.
Right. That just dawned on me. I'm like,
no, it's a good question.
How do you handle that?
So the good thing is, even though you're on committees and stuff, you can still speak as a citizen and voice your opinion on how you want, what your feelings are.
Well, I'm not elected.
Yeah, it does open
There's
you
no
up.
conflict there.
Well, it does open you up for criticism.
It's
though.
the criticism.
It does open you up for someone to say, "Oh, he had an agenda." I mean, there's a lot to it, Kurt. It's just not. I'm a citizen. I can say whatever I want. But you created it. Now you're, really ramping it up to say, "I want to push this through." Now, a lot of people can just on the surface say that he had an agenda. A lot of people that just, and it just opens. Maybe a small can of worms for the person on the committee.
Well, we'll certainly find out, won't we?
Has a live stream every Monday night that averages 400, 500, 600, 700 views a week.
Last week's up over 500 and counting.
There you go.
I mean, and we didn't even get Liddy to come on the show. Imagine that, ratings without her. Proposal 5A and B. This is going to be the most contested. Kurt, would you agree when they debate it, when the council takes it up?
I believe so. I really do. Because I feel there's a misunderstanding of what recall really is. I think people, the second they hear recall, it's just, it's frivolous and people are just going to smear campaign and this and that. And that's not the intent of a recall. The recall is meant to be when someone is doing something bad and not being effective. And but there's also provisions within our charter currently for behaviors, for acts that you've done, for there's multiple reasons already built in the charter that a councilor or elected official can be removed. This is in addition to that.
Right. Well, this is for a citizen's initiative, right?
Yes, for a citizen's initiative.
And if the counselor doesn't do anything wrong and stays by the book and doesn't try to play games with whatever authority they have, then they have nothing to worry about, right?
Well, so let's talk about that, because the pushback. So first of all, I'll start with how it broke down in the first vote. The first vote was 7-2 to actually have the recall language added to the charter. So overwhelmingly supported by the council. By the committee. Now, what's the pushback? So one of the comments that was heard early on when this first came up, and I'll name them because I'm that vindictive sometimes. It's not really vindictive. It's just a punchback. It was kind of funny, actually, and you'll get a kick out of this. So early on when we were debating the recall language, Bob Carroll was just, against it, still against it, right? But I asked him, I said, Bob, why are you so worried about this recall? Why are you so worried about somebody going rogue and recalling? He goes, I'm actually, to be honest, I'm worried about you. And it was funny, right? But every reason he brought to bear, or every of the frivolous, I'll call them recall filings that they found were ones I would never file a recall for, But they wanted to not allow a citizen to recall someone for a vote they take. But isn't that precisely the reason why you might want to recall someone? Or how about they didn't want to vote for somebody, they didn't want to do a recall because someone didn't fulfill a campaign promise, I think was one of them. Okay. I can tell you right now that Phil, remember the last council president, Phil Boncory?
How can you forget?
To a man, no less than 10 people he told he was going to remove Faison when he got elected, and it didn't happen. And we ended up with a very expensive mess named Faison. So, I dare I say I'm getting a little excited about it, but I just didn't see trust the electorate, right? Like that, and that to me just kind of speaks to the mindset, right? Like you really don't trust the people of Winthrop enough to handle this like adults.
What are you afraid of?
Yeah. And
it's not like Todd says, I want to recall somebody and it happens. It's got to be the people. The people vote for it.
Right.
That's a democracy. That's transparency. And unless they like he likes doing backdoor deals. Who knows?
And then also, if you look at the second portion of it, though, where they wanted to try and set limitations on what you could recall for.
That's Why?
So I honestly, this was another one I went back and forth with because I got so much feedback on it. And, I really wanted to do what the feedback was and not just go full head forward. In the beginning, I was like, yep, recall, good. We should be able to move along with this. But after hearing people and their concerns and how it could affect people's lives, and you can do a smear campaign. And then if you really dig into how you can get a recall done, if it ends up being a 2-year stint for a counselor, you really don't have time to create this atmosphere that I think the fear is out there of it.
Well,
you have such a short window.
Yep. For the counselors, for what would be in our world the at-large counselors, it would really only apply to the 4-year people, really. President,
including school committee
and school committee. It's a great point. But the other
it's
point,
not just town councilors. That's another thing. It's not just town councilors.
The other point they bring up is they say these things are divisive. Well, they are, but that belies the fact that there had to be division in the first place for the damn thing to start, right? People in Saugus, I can't quote the case verbatim, but essentially what happened was the town manager is effectively now an unbeatable mayor because they tried to the selectmen tried to get rid of him. They got rid of him, and all the selectmen that voted to get rid of him got recalled. And so now we have an untouchable, I guess, town manager in Saugus. So sometimes bad things happen, but to say that the divisiveness wasn't happening before the recall would be an asinine comment. The point being, there's already division if it comes to a recall. I mean, these ideas that there's motivation to ruin people's lives. I mean, they all must think I'm that kind of person, right? Or at least at one point in their lives. I mean, Bob Carroll said it. We're worried about you. Whose person have I ever smeared ever once? I've been accused of it by the same person twice. Hasn't happened. But the point I'm making is, if I'm the most scary person to you guys, and I've never done it, I think you're worrying about something that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a victim culture, and they're all victims. They think you're going to come out. Oh, he's coming after me. He's coming after me.
We self-govern.
But there's case in point though with it. There's case in point with this though, that if you think about this, okay, say you go on a job interview, and your job, which they do now, Googles your name, and they're going to see that, oh, they were on this recall thing. They were in a town position, and oh, look at this, look what they did, and all of a sudden, it could potentially down the road affect you getting a job.
So, that was
a point brought up.
That's a point. I don't.
If you get recalled, then you get basically ousted. You did this.
Right. If you lose the recall, it's one thing to be what he's referring to is if you get recalled and it doesn't get brought forward. First of all, a couple things that were left out of that discussion.
It's stigma. It leaves a stigma on the person.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
It's a fair thought. But here's the thing: what news agency is going to waste their time reporting on someone who they're trying to recall? Number one. So those people are all left out. And for the recalls that go through, if he or she wins the election, and to Scott's point, if he or she loses the election, they probably deserved it. A smear campaign isn't going to make it all. When was the last time a smear campaign that you've heard of? I've asked, this came up. Every meeting they brought it up, I said, bring me examples. You want to convince me, bring me real examples. And they can't, because it doesn't happen. So we're defending, so we're continuing to leave ourselves exposed to Austin Faison situations. I could name several school committee members who should have been recalled the day they got sworn in. When I served, we got stuck with them too, right? Because we all know, I've been beating this dead horse for God knows how long, but we all know that the school committees have not been strong enough over the years, and they've put us in a financial position that is untenable in our school district. But that's another discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But I also think the way we ended up with how this went, I mean, the first vote for A was 7-2, and then changing to the percentage instead of a number. That was a little closer. And then 5B ended up being 4 or 5 is no, which was...
That was to add guardrails. That was to define what we could recall. That was for nanny state. Like, that's the thing about that. Why should who are we as a committee to decide what can and can't be recalled?
Exactly.
You know?
And I'll be honest, the only reason why I voted the way I voted was because there are so many things within our charter already to relieve a counselor of duty that putting limitations on it would be just like, okay, well, are they wearing, shoes instead of sneakers or something? That would be frivolous, right?
Right.
But do you really put a limitation on something like that? That wouldn't even make it to be a recall.
Yeah, common sense has to come into this eventually.
And this, I think what needs to be laid out to everybody, hopefully when this goes to the council, is the actual steps it needs to take to get this to go forward. Because there are multiple steps. It's not just the town clerk taking it.
Nope.
It has to go to the state. I mean, it's not a small ordeal.
No, you have to get the signatures, has to go to the state, has to get on the ballot, and then you got to win the election. And the signatures you have to get 4% if it's a at large or a counselor, and it's 4% for both. 4% for you need 4% of your eligible voters. So if there's 4,000 eligible voters, you need to get 4% in signatures in order to get it on the ballot. Then you got to win the ballot. So this is no easy task. I mean, just not. All right, moving on.
Proposal. God, you wouldn't do well with it.
Proposal number 7 was filling a vacancy language. So basically, what we proposed there, and this was a 6-3 win. Simple proposal to make right now, as it stands, when the school committee has a vacancy from someone resigning or whatever reason, the seat opens up in between elections. Right now, a combination of the school committee and the town council appoint the person, but the council has 9 people, so it becomes political. And the school committee, if this passes, the school committee will elect their own or appoint their own replacements. Fairly a no-brainer. I'm going to bring this one up. And so proposal 8, this is the last one I'm actually going to bring up. It's about, we debated making a recommendation to the town council to form a water sewer advisory committee. It passed 7-2. I voted for it, but I was just being fresh. I didn't really care either way, but I did not think it was part of our purview, but I get the point of it. I mean, my whole issue with it, and Kurt, this is his baby, so I'll let him speak to this. My whole issue with it is, if we've got people now that I brought this up in the meeting, I brought this up when I was on the school committee back in 2013, by the way. The Winthrop High School, when I was on the school committee, I was on there for 4 years. For 4 years, the sink in the high school principal's bathroom leaked. And it didn't just go drip, drip, drip. It was running, basically. Really thin stream. I tried to get movement from the school committee side to get it looked at and fixed. I failed. But bottom line is, this Water and Sewer Commission, but let me step back. If someone isn't going around, I mean, there were custodians that saw it, principals, multiple principals. I mean, why wasn't it fixed?
That's a lot of water.
Right? If we can see it and it's not getting fixed, what the hell's another committee going to do? No offense, Kurt. I'll shut my mouth and turn it over to you.
So the reason why I'm 100% for this one is that if a simple citizen like me can go and just randomly start digging into budget lines and finding out that the rink wasn't paying any water bill since the beginning, since it was tied to the school, and now it's its own enterprise fund and still not paying it, even though I was told that it was being paid for. And then find out, oh, no, it's not being paid for. And there's no real meter actually reading it. But yeah, there is a meter reading it. This would be what that kind of committee is for, is, dig into those things. I mean, you look at me as a taxpayer, I want to know how much I'm paying for all these municipal buildings that are abated. I know they get abated. Taxpayers have to pay for it. But I should also know that they're not wasting water, where we're trying to save across the whole town or city on how all the water bills that are happening. When you got a field being in the negative, how do you have a meter reading in the negative? Clearly it's a malfunctioning meter. But those are things that, they should be looking into. The reality of personnel working on the water sewer department versus the cost of, them being put to do something else. That should be looked into. What is the actual personnel rate in charge to the department? Not just here's your budget line. And I think that's beneficial as a taxpayer. I want to know why all my taxes are being shelled out to all these different things with no true data behind it. Now you can say, oh, well, yeah, Mass Water Resource charges us this much. That's why it's so much. Well, no, there's more to it than just that. If you start really breaking it down and looking at all the expense of where water is being used, how it's being used, you see Ingleside Park sprinklers on when it's pouring rain out. Hey, maybe those should get shut off. But for me, this committee, it would be an advisory committee to be able to dig in a little bit more. And it wasn't our purview to try and say how it would be set up. I think it's beneficial for the transparency. Even the audit that we had done called out things that were not being done, as simple as the billing auditing. They clearly was not being done, even though it said it. The town is saying it was done. The auditor found it was not being done. They called and contacted the supposed audit company that we have. They said, no, we're not doing an audit on it. But in all the paperwork and everything, it says it was being done. So this is where that committee, I think, would be beneficial to have more transparency to all the citizens.
It makes sense to me.
Well, it'll be a question for the ages. If it gets, do you think, but Kurt, your opinion, you think this will get debated, or it'll be one of the questions that the council will agree on?
I think for this one, as much as it's been put out there over the past few years, I think they will agree to have a committee. Maybe not a full blown like it used to be, but more of a kind of like advisory type or informational, as Karen actually said. Was it Karen or Denise? One of the two said informational.
Yeah, I think it was.
And that's really, for me, that's all it would be, is more informational. Just getting the true information and putting it out there.
There you go.
And I think that's all people want.
Yep. Well, that's all. So to wrap up this ORC section, and again, I thanked Jim profusely for having the opportunity. I did really appreciate it. Kurt, I've told you it was great to work with you. Even through some of the stickiness, I enjoyed the experience. I am glad it's over. All that time, what do we have? 19 meetings or something?
I think it was 19.
Yeah, 19, 20 meetings, whatever it was. We had a lot of meetings in a short period of time. It would really be a shame if they completely undid our work. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Can a flag policy be put through the ordinance committee?
Listen, the good news is if they get their way, there's an election coming, and I'm pretty sure that council is going to change over, and we'll just make sure we get it turned back around the other way.
1 year they do. How about just doing it every other year?
Revere had a ceremony for the Christian flag, wasn't it? The one that Boston refused to fly, and Revere actually did it.
Did they?
I believe so. I'll look it back up again.
Yeah, look it up.
There you go.
Could be risky, but they're going to fly every Tom, Dick, and Harry flag in Revere. God bless them. Let them do it. You know, that's just.
Then Winthrop should do it. I think Winthrop should take up Revere's policy.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Anyway.
All right, Kurt. Thanks for calling, man. You're always
thanks,
welcome
Kurt.
on the show. We appreciate your input. You're a wealth of knowledge, my friend.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
And tell Wendy we said hello.
Yes.
I will. Bye.
All right,
See ya.
bye.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go.
So there it was. That's it.
All right.
You want to save our other convo for another convo? You want to go see your wife now at 9:15 or whatever time it is?
Yeah. She has. Hi, Wendy. Yeah, she has to get up Monday, Tuesdays. She has to be in early, so she gets up at like 4:30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go hang out with my wife for a while, but I got what I needed to say, and we could press that pretty much at the beginning of next episode, also with the building up of Winthrop.
Sounds good. Next week, we're hoping to have a special guest, trying to get it confirmed. Caroline Colarusso, candidate for Senate.
All right.
So, but like I always say, we thank you guys. Please share. Please tell everyone. Please get more people involved. All politics starts at the local level. We can make a difference. Clearly, we are. You can tell by the pushback from the flag people that, hey, it's debate anyway. That's a good thing, right? People are talking about it. So get involved. It all starts here.
That's it. And like I always say, I want to thank you guys. Todd and I would like to thank you for watching, participating, calling in. You are the engine that makes this machine run. Without you, it'd just be me and Todd having a conversation. And like I always say, that could go either way on any given day. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Monday.